Hello, and welcome to another fully live Friday episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Cody Kinsey. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today I have my good friend Alex here to help go through the news and talk about some of the things that have been in the headlines. And per always, I have to give a big shout out to Zam for contributing a substantial amount of the news that we're going to go through today. He always finds some very interesting stories, so we have some really good ones this week. And also, we had a winner from our Q&A stream earlier this week. If we switch over to my screen, you can see that I tweeted earlier this week saying that anybody who left a question either on the YouTube channel or on Twitter would be eligible to to win a Hack5 gift card and I guess live the Hack5 lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
we had to survive.
Yeah, we had lots of really excellent questions, and in fact, there are some excellent ones that haven't been answered yet under here. So these are automatically entered to win for next week. But we had a winner for the week previous, or I guess this week, and that was, I believe the screen name was Potato Boy, who had asked us about how we prevent or deal with people asking us to hack their girlfriend's accounts or doing something similarly unethical.
Yes.
So we get that question all the time. Not how we prevent it, but how to actually do it, or how to. I think while we were on the stream, we had a question that was, "Sir, do you want to make $1,000? All you need to do is get me $100,000 in Bitcoin by hacking some guy's account." So that's something we deal with a lot. So it was good answering that question. If you wanted to hear that question, you can check out the previous stream that we did on Wednesday. And if you have a question that you want to ask us, maybe in reaction to one of the things in this news stream, you can leave a question on our YouTube channel and you will automatically be entered to win the $100 Hack5 gift card. So Potato Boy, just respond to the link we're going to send you and you will win your Hack5 gift card. Thank you very much for your question. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. There are a number of different things that that happened today that I want to talk about. Let's go over and switch over to my screen for one. So this was an Ethereum developer who believed in the future of cryptocurrency to cross borders, one might say. Nice. Perhaps to a fault, one might say. Because he went ahead and went to North Korea and talked to them about how they could use it to make a bunch of money in violation of sanctions. So obviously that's problematic for the people who put the sanctions there. So he got in trouble for saying things like, "Yes, I understand this violates sanctions." The court case is pretty wild. So if you want to read some of the quotes from the indictment, they basically, he got caught saying some things basically like that, where he acknowledged that, like, why, yes, this is in fact very illegal. So yeah, cryptocurrency has lots of potential, but being untraceable is not necessarily really one of them. So this is one of those examples, I guess, of people who are really, really into what cryptocurrency could do, running into the limitations of the real world. Too bad, but
then
again,
he's upfront about it.
yeah. I mean, like, there's lots of places
Korea.
you could have gone to, be a cryptocurrency guy, and I think maybe North Korea wasn't the best choice in this case. Yeah. So if you're somebody that's trying to bring cryptocurrency to new places, then good luck to you, but also don't go to North Korea. That one just took me by surprise. So I also saw that there was potentially, we'll probably see this in the news when the actual company is identified, if it is ever actually identified, but there was a vaccine passport website that was exposing the information of people who were submitting their data to this platform. So that's obviously not good, because nowadays people are trying to find ways of making it really convenient for them to show they've been vaccinated, if that's a requirement. And having some of these platforms spun up really quickly means that maybe, like, not everybody who was supposed to be in the room was in the room. So maybe a security person that could have given you some insight into how to make this not happen, maybe that was something that you should have included in the conversation, especially when it comes to, like, people's driver's license information and social security numbers. Blood type also seems a little invasive. But again, photos of their driver's licenses or passports, like, that's obviously something that, if it's directly exposed to the internet, is going to cause people to be a little bit upset.
Yeah, that's kind of scary.
Yeah. All right. So we also have this thing. Alex, what are your thoughts on this?
That's about at a good kicking height level. I would punt that thing.
Yeah, that is exactly, thank you, Alex. That's exactly how I feel. I would also punt this thing.
What does it do?
So this thing is, all right, so let's imagine for a second that you have a parent that's maybe not perfect. Maybe they're an alcoholic. Maybe they're just abusive in some other way. And they were able to extend their abuse and harassment while they weren't even there to make your house a terrifying place where there's no safety. This little thing will roll around at the behest of your abusive parent, spouse, or whatever, shout at you, and monitor you with a giant periscope.
Oh my God.
What a wonderful idea. It'll also watch your kids every possible second of their development and deny them any expectation of privacy while this robot stalks them and watches their every move. This is Amazon's newest product.
I hate it.
Yeah, where it thinks that people... So there are actually two in this lineup. I haven't seen the flying home surveillance drone, but I knew it was inevitable to have like a drone that's pretty soon probably going to like pepper spray you or like beat you up with a baseball bat or something as well. But for now, it just flies around and tells on you. But this little rolling thing is kind of their entry-level model where it rolls around and tattles on everything it sees to whoever bought it. So Amazon likes to jump in on home surveillance stuff, and really there's a lot of privacy advocates that find this stuff creepy because there's a lot of things you don't know that are going on the device that might also be transmitted elsewhere. So while they might not directly take your data, they're doing a lot of on-device processing to recognize things, do facial recognition. There's lots of stuff going on here, some of which the metadata might be very valuable to Amazon's advertisers and other people that they want to work with, and subsidize the cost of these devices to make them cheaper. So that's just kind of how I feel. I mean, it's kind of inevitable that if you have rolling cameras inside your home, then the same thing that's happened with Ring, with video cameras outside your home being suddenly subpoenaable, you can directly expose them to the public so people can just watch through your doorbell, like the local police department if they want to, and it's created just security cameras everywhere in places that most people would never imagine them being. So if we expand this infrastructure and basically take that same thing and just turn it inside the home and then make it roam around constantly, it really kind of destroys the last expectation of privacy to know that a corporate surveillance device is now not just like on your door facing outside, but now literally roaming your halls, recording everything happening inside your house, as well as everything you own. Just weird. It's just a weird thing to think about that this robot that's built by some company that has maybe another purpose, going through and classifying stuff in your house. I don't know, facial recognition and stuff like that. So who you're hanging out with, who you're spending time, why would anyone else need to know that? I don't know. So if you're excited about this device, please let me know why. If it's because you're a control freak, then have you considered that you're not always in control? But having a roving, puntable robot monstrosity, I guess, roaming around your house with, by the way, I don't know, this is the Washington Post, so I think it's gonna get me, and it's gonna try to get me to. I want to see the periscope. That's all I want to see. I don't want to see this guy. Yeah, no, I don't want to see this guy at all. Yeah, see, it got me. That's what you get. So look, if you really want to see what's startling about this, please, if you can on your laptop, look up the periscope. This is for the
Periscope puntable robot.
Yeah, it's just the rolling surveillance robot.
I really hate it. It seems invasive.
But the periscope is really, did you search for the periscope specifically?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you go to images, and I hope that you can find one, because really the most unsettling thing to this part of this is the periscope and the fact that it.
Whoa.
Yeah. All right. Switch over.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is this?
Okay, that's not
the
same device.
That looks like
it was on the end. There we go. Look. All right. So this thing.
Look.
So imagine you're just I'm gonna punt this thing. You start backing up, and then it raises itself like this, as though to scare a predator by making itself larger. By the way, if I did cave and get one of these things, I would make a massive fin that's connected to the periscope that comes up like a lizard's neck, and like makes it look huge as soon as the periscope deploys.
Like just like a huge like lizard type cape.
Exactly, like something that comes up like that. Like
then it sprays liquid at you.
Well, I don't know about that. That seems like a lot of work. But I mean, someday I imagine this thing will probably mace you or beat you up, as I said. So so really, that's what's unsettling about this is the fact that it has this proboscis that just pops right up and can like veer around and like poke around. So even if you're hiding like in a cabinet or something, the little probe can just come up and like turn towards you slowly, and that'll be the last thing you see. So obviously, I'm horrified by this robot just because the thought of it rolling around inside my house is scary and weird. But if you like this thing, please let us know. And if you want us to like see if we can get Amazon to like give us one, I have no idea why they would, but we can definitely give it a try, maybe for a Hack 5 episode, something like that as well. And we can let you know like the best place and the best type of shoe to wear to really get that thing all the way across the room. Or maybe like the best shot placement to put it down if it turns on you. So
right between the eyes.
Yeah, let us know. Well, no, I think that's a decoy actually. It's like a lizard with a false tail, you know? All the processing I think goes on in the it looks like a label printer combined with like
yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like a label printer combined with a Segway. But anyway, I think that's where it does all of its processing. So I think that's just to trick the burglar or whoever it's running up on into attacking the wrong part. Just a theory. I don't know. We don't have one yet. So anyway, just wanted to let you guys know that this is now something you will encounter inevitably in life, and I'm sorry for that. All right, so cars are always trying to get smarter, and in this case, you can see that this was like at the it tagged the car hacking village, so you know that that's not a good sign for the security feature. So facial recognition is now something that I guess is being experimented with for certain vehicles. They're blurring it out very generously, I might add. But it looks like this incredibly sophisticated disguise was able to trick the car into automatically starting. So yeah, I would say on a level of 1 to 10 of disguises, this disguise is like a 3. It is a printed piece of paper stuck to some glasses, and it is completely 2D. And it only covers like the nose and the eyes. The mouth is left completely normal. So I really, really like this because like he's just got to give the side eye to the car in just the right direction, and it's like you're that guy, and it unlocks. Yeah. So super funny. Don't expect to be seeing this feature integrated into many cars at the moment. I think it looks experimental, and I can probably guess why.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. So this is a feature that I'm kind of glad about, but this is creating a debate as to what exactly AirTags are for. So with iOS 15, AirTags are now giving you a warning, which will tell you if an AirTag is moving with you. Your current location can be seen by the owner of this AirTag. This AirTag may be attached to an item you are borrowing. If this AirTag is not familiar to you, you can disable it and stop sharing your location. Continue. So now, so this guy's just like, hey, if someone takes my friggin' bike, then like, what is this thing for?
Yeah.
Like, is this like, so that means like, is this for anti-theft? Not anymore, because now if the thief has an iPhone, then you know they're going to get a notification that like the thing that they've stolen is bugged. They're just going to rip it out or find it.
Like, what's the use case for this now? I feel like you can't use it for like tracking.
It's
people
pretty much only for like
someone stealing your
legitimately
stuff.
lost things that are then only found by like people who want to return it.
So if someone steals your stuff and has a phone, you can't do anything about that.
Right, and also if this is in a fixed position with that other people are nearby, rather than even bothering to find it, it looks like they can just disable it, which is what is this for? So at one point this was so tracky that I didn't get any notification whatsoever because I have an Android phone that this thing was tracking me as I was taking flights, and Zam was able to figure out what airport we were in, what flight we were taking by when we took off on the runway. And the thing would like make noises like after like 2 or 3 days. It would like make a little pinging noise, which is, by the way, easy to disable with a screwdriver because you just pop the speaker and then it doesn't make any noise at all. So, it went from being this kind of like creepy surveillance tool to they're like, okay, people are using it to stalk people, people are sticking it. I saw a TikTok video of like somebody like getting a notification like this and then searching their car and finding one stuck with duct tape underneath the trunk from, I assume, the baby mama. But like people are immediately like trying to figure out like, you know, like how can I use this to be sneaky? And Apple was like, oh gosh, whoops, how could we ever have predicted that people would use this in all sorts of crazy ways? Because they basically made like a GPS tracker that like works off of every iPhone and then expected people to like play it straight and only used it to find their like lost, like what?
What does it do now though? Like,
yeah. So I'm continuing to be confused by what the use case of the AirTag is. If someone can tell me a good use for the AirTag that they're currently using it for, please let me know. Because the thought that strangers can now disable it, if that is what this means, kind of makes it kind of useless, really. Because like in balancing the privacy concerns of people like me who don't want to be constantly stalked by this thing just because I have an Android phone, and you know, like my wanting to use one of these things to maybe find a lost item, like I can't really find the middle ground on this. So it would be interesting hearing some perspective on that. If you have any questions also, maybe we can answer them on the next stream and you could win the prize, huh? All right. So I just wanted to point out.
Oh, this awful thing again.
Yeah, this awful. Well, I just appreciate Moose's take on this. It doesn't even agree with the decision to give itself wheels and have it stalk you.
Yes.
But oh look, it's the Astro. What a great look. It's so loyal to this woman. So I'm not going to dig any more into this horrible robot. I think we've already thoroughly covered it. But I just wanted to like again just point out like how terrible of an idea this thing is.
I want to know what this woman needs it for though. Is she insecure? What does she need?
I don't want to. I can't. I cannot. I don't think I can play this whole video. I encourage you to watch it because like I imagine in every scene the robot turning on the person that's using it. Yeah. Yeah, just for the sake of being nice to Amazon, I'm gonna not play this and just keep my personal feelings well where they are. So one piece of fallout from that Epik leak last week, or maybe even the week before, was that some people who were trying to cover their tracks and register a bunch of domains with some privacy options had their stuff completely exposed. And that's just kind of what you get when you have your organization fully breached. Yes. So we talked about how Epik Web Hosting was hosting some pretty controversial websites, some of which could not be hosted anywhere else because they were spreading misinformation, getting subpoenaed, or otherwise attracting attention because they were hateful or on the fringe of what's even kind of allowed on the internet. Now, as soon as this company was breached, it was shown that a lot of these websites were registered by some people who did not want their identities out there, and one of them was this conservative activist who was publishing a lot of domains that had conspiracy theories and then kind of getting embroiled in the mix of misinformation that was being spread out there, but managing to do it relatively anonymously before this breach happened. So really what happened here was he was using an anonymity service that was not very carefully maintained. So by paying a little bit extra, he was able to scrub his name from the information, but of course, this web hosting service went ahead and logged that information for business purposes. So, you know, his email address, name, all this other stuff, as well as correspondence confirming the setup of these privacy features are all there. So really good reporting going on right now from some of the data breaches, and you can expect more fallout from this breach because lots of people who operate these websites now have their dirty underwear kind of out on the laundry line, and everybody's kind of sniffing around and seeing what a gross analogy is, kind of trying to find out what's going on in there. So yeah, there's some really interesting fallout from this breach, and also it's not over. So I'm not sure if I lined this up, but Alex, we have to talk about this. Yeah, so this company did not acknowledge that they had been breached for a very long time. They said this is just people making up rumors. It's really nothing. There's no breach. And then the CEO, who has an amazing name, Rob Monster.
It's like Rob Zombie, except I guess Rob Monster.
It's pretty close, yeah.
His cousin.
Yeah. Yeah, so hosted a 4+ hour video conference where he prayed, tried to get rid of demons, and warned that the hack data had been cursed and would cause hard drives to burst into flames. Which, by the way, still going strong. Nice. So not totally sure about that. But yeah, this was a wild one. I obviously cannot play anything from this, but there was a mix of hackers and people that were impacted by this that were in the chat when this was happening. So this really went off the rails pretty quickly. There was a conservative hacker who joined the chat and said a bunch of Nazi stuff, which then this guy like didn't disagree with, just kind of, which was like, oh, that's how you feel. Well, that's interesting, which is kind of consistent with like the way that this web host acts in general.
Right.
And then there were a bunch of people who didn't like that and flooded the chat and started trolling it, which caused him to just start cursing the demons who had stolen the data. So this is probably one of the most unusual disclosures I've ever seen from like a company with this much business. But then again, based on the way this company was run and the people it was serving, I'm not super surprised.
It's great incident response. Blame it on the demons, I guess.
Yeah, they are hard to sue, I will say. So we will, don't worry, we'll come back because there's been further developments in the Epik saga. But for now, let's move on a little bit. So we're also going to cover this a little bit later, but over 10 million Android phones were infected with, well, I'm just going to wait till we get to the story. But a lot of Android phones were infected with essentially spyware. This was, I think, banking malware. Let's see. Was it this one? And what that did was allow a lot of people to steal lots and lots of money. So, of course, like there's lots of different ways you can try to steal money, but the one that this was using it does the premium SMS services trick. Like that is like, to me, like a very old school thing where it just like sends a bunch of like very expensive like text messages to like a service that then gets paid for it. Very funny. It's like a very specific kind of botnet almost, where it's just like trying to do one thing that makes the owner money. So not a lot of sophistication, but the stolen money is, as it says, almost impossible to recover, and 10 million is a lot. So, and this was a widespread campaign. It wasn't just happening in one specific area. It was the United States, the USA, Russia, China. So this was also from infected applications. And that's kind of a theme recently where there's a lot of infected apps that are hitting endpoints and making it really difficult for people who install apps that might be on the Google Play Store, but not scanned. And you get that little warning, but if you mess up and download the wrong one, then you could end up with something like this. Look at how scary that is.
Oh, no.
Horrifying. Someone put this through MS Paint and made it evil.
Still less horrifying than that awful puntable robot.
Yeah, right? I would rather run into this thing in my home than the proboscis of that weird robot. All right, let's see if I can get back where I was. Oh yeah, here we go. This is just great. This isn't even news. I just didn't even know you could do this. And you can see like lots of other people didn't either. You can grab a file from a remote system, like a Linux remote system with SSH, but no SCP binary. This has like got me several times when I need to move a file and I'm like, wait, I don't, this
cool.
thing. Yeah, so apparently you can just use this command and you're able to just write a file via SSH, which is really, really cool.
Nice. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, this whole thread is just full of people who are just like, I didn't know you could do this. I just used this last week. Like, I love little tidbits like this that just like make it a little easier to use like bash or like command line stuff, just because like, you know, sometimes I didn't know that there's a workaround for something that otherwise would cause me a big headache. So
Nice.
just shout out to this because that made my week a little bit easier when I was working with the Linux box. All right, we're back to Epik. So Epik had a full end-to-end compromise, and by that I mean fully bootable disk images.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so for a company that runs like servers and stuff, like that means that we're not like digging around in the SQL servers anymore. We've taken like a backup of like the entire system and made it available to anybody who wants it. It's like 300 gigabytes, so it's absolutely massive. But yeah,
Wow.
They
got hit really hard.
They got hit really hard. So like this is something that like goes a pretty big step beyond what was leaked 2 weeks ago or so. So if you're following the saga, this is a big new development, and you can expect a lot of news to come out of this because as journalists dig into this and figure out like what to even do with this data, because there is a lot of it, you're going to be seeing more stories based on the companies who were working with this organization. So yeah, stay tuned because this sort of breach is epic, as they say. But it's not very often that you see a company that is just this thoroughly breached.
Yeah.
Especially when like no money was demanded. You know, this is just being posted online. Like the hackers, arguably the hackers who are committing these acts have been targeted by people who set up doxing and harassment sites on this web server that refuse then to take them down. So for a lot of reasons, this seems personal. Yeah. Again, fully bootable disk images. You don't want that. That's bad. That's really bad when that happens. Okay, so this one is actually just hilarious. If you use GPSD to get time information from GPS satellites, very reasonable. Alex, why would you do this?
So you can have, I guess, pretty accurate time. And I mean, I've used it for things like war driving and stuff like that.
Yeah. So if you don't version if you don't upgrade your version to version 3.23 before the 24th of October 2021, then it's going to send your server back in time to March 2002,
Nice.
which could not cause any problems at all, or could cause absolutely horrible problems. So this is like using GPS time is a common trick when we have like a microcontroller that doesn't have like a real-time clock, or we're interfacing with a system that doesn't have a real-time clock. We'll just use GPS time to figure out what time it is by, asking satellites. And provided we have a clear line of sight, this is a pretty reliable way to reset the clock and adjust for any drift that might happen from not having a real-time clock on board. But obviously, if you have a flaw that sends you back, like a decade or two, then you have a pretty big problem when it comes to making sure devices know what time it is and what the date is, especially as we get into like leap years and stuff like that. This is going to get less and less accurate. So just a very funny bug to keep an eye on if you have been doing this workaround and not using real-time clock and instead have been using GPS time in order to figure out what time it is. I myself have several projects that do this, so I am slightly horrified. All right, Alex, why don't you talk about this one?
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
We use Octaprint. So Octaprint is just a service that can be hosted on your Raspberry Pi to basically interface with most 3D printers, allowing you to like remotely print files, do setup in various configuration on your 3D printer completely remotely. It's super useful. In fact, during this stream, I had to stop a 3D print in the background that was making too much noise, which I was able to do completely live from my computer if you want to switch over to that real quick.
No.
Oh, actually not. We're not going to do that. But yeah, the Octaprint interface is super easy to work with. It works over your browser. And it looks like this is a version of Octaprint that you can run directly on a smartphone. So the barrier to entry seems even lower and easier to get started with than having to set up like a Raspberry Pi or something like that.
Yeah, so the creator of Octaprint is Gina, who actually I think came to one of my classes at the C3 conference in Germany, and she was super, super cool. And it's an amazing program that allows you on the Raspberry Pi to control a printer, a 3D printer, and do lots of stuff that otherwise is an absolute pain. You can monitor it, you can start prints remotely, you can do all sorts of cool stuff. But you do need a Raspberry Pi to do it. So the fact that you can just take an old Android phone and just have it do the exact same thing is so incredibly cool, because it does have all the hardware necessary. It's just, a little bit, I kind of didn't think that this would be possible. So we're actually going to try this out and maybe do a Hack 5 video on it or a live stream on it as well. So it just seems like such a cool thing to be able to do. So I'm excited to try it out. And if you guys haven't tried this out, or if anybody has, please let us know how it's gone or if there's any gotchas, because it almost seems too good to be true. So our friend Patrick Wardle is doing a conference that I wish so badly that I could be at. It's called Objective by the Sea, and it's in Hawaii, and it looks so super fun. And we've been invited, but we can't go. But anyway, aside from being resentful that I'm not there, some really incredible stuff has been presented there. So if you're looking for interesting macOS security related stuff, then you should definitely check out some of the talks at Objective-C and Objective by the Sea. It's also interesting to see some of the stuff that Patrick talks about when it comes to anti-forensics. So anti-analysis logic of ARM malware on macOS. As macOS moves over to ARM malware, Patrick is one of the foremost people talking about the ways that people who are making malware can hide what they're doing and try to make it really confusing for analysts to figure out what's going on there. I am one of his Patreon sponsors, so I get to see his stuff kind of early, which is really cool. And he does these incredible write-ups of macOS malware where he analyzes it and makes it really obvious, even for beginners, what's going on. And just makes it super, super accessible for basically anyone who wants to understand, like, hey, how could my macOS computer get infected, and what mechanisms would the attacker use to do it? So this is such a cool resource. I love the way that Patrick lays these things out and makes it really easy to follow. Maybe not this particular diagram because it's taken out of context, but in general, when he's explaining things, it's really easy for even beginners to follow along. So if you have an interest in macOS security or in the way that malware authors, especially sophisticated malware authors are hiding their stuff. I've learned more about the way that threat actors will hide malware and try to make it really sneaky and persistent from Patrick's write-ups than I have from any other source. So I highly recommend it, especially like if you want to throw in some money on Patreon, he's definitely worth it because he's always in the news. He's always in the news. Anytime there's a piece of macOS news that's going to be like on CNN or something, or like a couple days later, you will read it first in the stuff that he sends out to his Patreon subscribers in a really nice, easy to digest write-up, and then you see it all over the news a couple days later with him quoted in it. So it's just a good investment because Patrick's really where the action is when it comes to cybersecurity, especially malware on macOS systems. So really cool resource.
Is this that same guy that makes those really cool macOS utilities that
Yeah,
you're telling me about?
like the ones
Those
that are
pretty sweet.
currently running on my computer, like Oversight, which is telling me whether or not my screen is recording, or sorry, not my screen, my camera's recording, or my audio is recording. So there's no indication whether or not the audio on my macOS system is going to be running or not. Like I can't tell. There's no light that turns on. So this provides me with oversight into whether or not anything is actually recording me, which is really cool. And then there's some other stuff too, like Lulu, which lets me know anytime a new program is being installed and then requests access to a service somewhere. As soon as a program is requesting access to a service that's never requested before, it's going to send a pop-up and also run it through VirusTotal and let me know if it has a certificate. All those things are super useful because most malware is going to have to do that in order to survive. So yeah, he makes a lot of really awesome tools. So
cool.
Shout out to Patrick Wardle and Objective-C as one of my favorite resources for understanding malware and especially looking into macOS related security. All right, so Flubot is... So we're going to cover it a little bit later, but I wanted to just show the infection mechanism right now because it's so counterintuitive. So this is something targeting Android devices, and you can see the way that they're spreading it is by making people think they're already infected.
Oh, that's smart. So do they trick them into saying like, click here to do like this security procedure or something?
Yeah, so like you go to an infected website and it pops up like a full
smart.
Screen thing that says, your device is infected with the Flubot registered trademark.
Nice.
Like you're gonna get sued for infringing on the, like they couldn't like pretend, like your first red flag that like the malware person is talking directly to you is when they register the trademark of their malware and then like insist on putting that there, like out of respect to the author. No one does that. I've literally never in my life seen a type of malware with a registered trademark.
They're just that proud of it. They don't want you to steal
That's
it.
what I'm saying. They're just like, please, don't take this idea and run with it. We'll sue you because it's illegal.
It's a pretty good idea, though. I haven't seen an attack like this before.
Yeah, I just love that they like brought copyright into this for no reason. I was like, make it look official. Like, no, like add some stuff to make them feel confident. They're like, okay, like a registered trademark. Like, yeah, like okay, cool. So Android has detected that your device has been infected. Flubot is an Android spyware that aims to steal your financial login and password data from your device. You must install Android security update to remove Flubot. You're missing a word. You must install the... Oh wait, install on Android security. Okay, never mind. I was wrong. You got it right. So then if you click on this, it just downloads just straight up malware. If a window appears preventing the installation, select settings and enable the installation of unknown apps.
Hey,
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Definitely
So
secure.
this is the appeal to authority. This is trying to make you feel like, your device is telling you itself, hey, idiot, guess what? You messed up. Now you got to download this. Otherwise, all your banking stuff is going to be stolen. But I do really like that this is actually trying to steal your financial data.
Yeah, pretty
That's like
sneaky.
exactly what it's trying to do. It's trying to take like screenshots and otherwise like record you. So yeah, it just like announces itself as literally who it is, but it pretends to be your device and then tries to bully you into downloading the malware through intimidation. A very alpha move, Flubot.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, it's very rare that you see just like a piece of malware so confident that it registers its own trademark and then like tries to like
It also tells you it's malware like preemptively.
yeah, like literally explains exactly what it's about to do, and then at the bottom it's like, by the way, install it.
Yeah.
But just tries to like make you feel like your phone is telling you to do it. That's really creative, I have to say. Like this is probably my favorite swing at just getting people who literally didn't do anything wrong. They just like clicked on the wrong link maybe to be infected by this just by getting confused. So you cast a wide enough net, I guess you get a lot of
idiots.
a lot of a lot of old people, like a lot of people that maybe like don't check this sort of stuff like before they click it. Like a lot of people that maybe are in a career that has nothing to do with technology and like they don't know the difference between like a malicious website going full screen and warning them about malware and what it would actually look like if their phone got infected because they've never seen that. Like, it's hard to say. But yeah, I would hope that I would not fall for this, but who knows? Oh, would you look at this?
Wow.
Alex, do you care to explain?
Wow, what is this product? So this is the awesome Wi-Fi nugget we've been working on. So I did a demonstration on Hack5 it was sort of a premiere for the Wi-Fi nugget platform, showing you one use case where you could use it for detecting deauthentication and disassociation attacks, basically by using promiscuous data and parsing through it to look for specific Wi-Fi frame types. So if someone is running a noisy Wi-Fi attack, such as deauthentication, our board's able to pick that up, and then it has a cute little indicator, a slightly aggrieved cat face that detects whether or not your Wi-Fi is being hacked. But yeah, this is a product we've been working on for a pretty long time now, and they're available on our store if you want to check them out.
Yeah, you can go to Hakcat.com and believe, and we're in the future when we go to conferences and such going to be using these as game pieces for CTFs and also as prizes. So in this configuration, it basically is able to tell whether or not someone is attacking Wi-Fi in your area, but also you can flash like MicroPython to it, or you can also flash the Wi-Fi deauthor to it so you can be the one attacking networks.
Yeah.
So
cool.
In Alex's video, he's actually using one of these nuggets to attack the other nugget, and you can see it flip from happy to very, very sad, as you can see. So this was a really cool project. The video just premiered yesterday, so it was awesome to see it go live. And also a big thank you to everyone who bought one. We received a bunch of orders, which we're going to be putting together and sending out today. And this is Alex's like first project with Hack5 and with me, like making a piece of hardware. We've never made something to scale like this before, so it was a really exciting thing to do. And yeah, our sponsor at PCBWay was really cool with getting us a lot of beautiful different colors of
They're really
PCBs.
sweet boards.
Yeah, those were our favorites, and of course we also got some great boards from JLC PCB for some of the more exotic colors, well, sort of exotic, like red, that otherwise we wouldn't have.
Yeah.
So,
Just another update, we've also been working on these color changing cases that I printed a whole bunch of today. So if you did order one of these boards, you get a surprise color changing case.
Yes, we didn't say that we were including them, but Alex worked through the night making some color changing 3D printed cases for these cute little nuggets that are going out today.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you to everyone who grabbed one, and we really appreciate it. You can check out the video on Hack5. It's, I think, the most recently updated video on Hack5, and it was a lot of fun to make these little nuggets. I would just say, though, be very careful of the ears. They are they double as a self-defense tool. In an emergency, you can just,
Can it defend you against that awful robot, though?
We'll have to find out. Maybe if Amazon sends us one. So what is SIM swapping?
It's an attack where you basically steal someone else's phone number to like bypass 2FA or things like that by receiving like their text messages and other things that they might use to authenticate.
Right, and let's say that you were targeting the head of a company and you found their phone number, you ran it through an identifier that told you it was with a certain carrier, and then you did some research to find their basic information. How would you go about performing a SIM swapping attack?
I actually don't know too much about how they're actually executed.
You call the freaking phone company.
You can do that? Nice.
What? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So the way that SIM swapping accounts works, SIM swapping attacks work is you basically figure out like which carrier that person is using, you find their basic information, and then you put on your best like old lady voice and you call and you say like, hello, I need to make a change, and you read all the information out. You pretend to be someone who's authorized on the account, or you pretend to be that person themselves. I don't know why we're attacking an old lady today, but that's who we're going after. That's who's going down. And we'd be like, all right, my name's Janet, and I need you to move my phone over to this new card, or my new phone. And they would take your old SIM card, invalidate it, and then move your number over to a new SIM card if it was lost, stolen, whatever else. It happens so often that the verification isn't that great. It depends on the carrier, and it depends on like what mood the person who takes your phone call is in that day, really. Like, so this is a big vulnerability because it's infrastructure and people depend on this. But with a single phone call, you can trick an employee into switching this over and causing all of your, like 2FA resets if you're using text messages to now go to the attacker, which is a really big threat because they can reset everything you have and make it super easy to get into a lot of your primary accounts. So that's why I don't recommend text-based or SMS-based 2FA because of this attack. But now the FCC is proposing some new rules to make it a little bit harder to do this. So if you want to check into what they are proposing, it's basically going to be some requirements around making it harder for an unknown party to do this without some sort of verification that makes sense. Because right now, there's no rules around this. It's all just a policy set up by that particular carrier. So some carriers are probably going to be much more vulnerable than others because there's no real standard for this. So I personally think this is a good idea because, we encourage people to use 2FA all the time, but this vulnerability is really not that hard to execute if you've got some time and you've got a good amount of information about that person, like their biographical information, where they live, and some other stuff that can enable you to answer a security question or two. So in fact, like there's often not security questions required in order to do this. So it's good to see that there's something that's taking shape there to make this a little harder to pull off.
That just goes to show like it's more about like hacking the people behind this than like actual computers or things like that. With social engineering, it's more just like tricking them into handing over this information or doing sketchy things for you. Exactly.
And like, what would you recommend instead of like a text-based authentication for logging in if you're going to be using 2FA?
I'm not sure actually.
How about a phone or a hardware token?
Oh yeah, hardware tokens are pretty interesting. It's just like a piece of hardware that you can carry on you that allows you to authenticate stuff.
Yeah.
That's
so also so either a 2FA token or just your phone using something like Google Authenticator. Both of those would be a way better way of doing this. Of course, then you run the risk of needing backup key or making sure you never only have one thing that can log you in just in case you lose your phone or something like that. But it's a lot harder to like sneakily like grab someone's phone and like find their authentication code and then it expires after a certain period of time. That's way harder to do and involves like physical access compared to just remotely being able to grab someone's information and trick some company into switching their stuff over. So I'm glad to see that this is a little bit more lockdown, or potentially will be in the future. So I doubt you've ever heard of bandwidth.com, but they are people who do voice over IP. So this is a lot of businesses that rely on VoIP to do phone services, to take phone calls. This has been down for a while because they have been the victim of a massive denial of service attack that has been ramping up and ongoing since apparently September 25th. So it's been there hasn't been much of a statement aside from they've mitigated a lot of the damage that could have happened, but like they're still trying to figure out what's happening. So we still don't know a lot about what's going on here, but it is it seems to be pretty bad. So again, like we don't totally know what's happening yet, but when you have a giant botnet like all attacking your service, it's very difficult to stay afloat. But we will probably see more about the story as it is ongoing, and we haven't seen a lot of updates yet. So very interesting to see. And also thank you to Zam for the story because I wouldn't have really found it. But as voice communications moves online, these sorts of services are really exposed because their endpoints basically have to be publicly accessible because of the way that VoIP works. So they are really, really easy to direct tons of traffic to and basically just knock offline. And that's why these sorts of services are they're critical infrastructure because they are enabling like communication between businesses. This is kind of what they switch over to instead of like phone lines. So when these businesses are hit, it really can impact lots of businesses unintentionally who rely on the sort of infrastructure to do their daily business.
Oh yeah, it looks like Twilio's down. I've used that for a lot of projects to do like SMS stuff on microcontrollers.
Yeah.
Wow, so some pretty big companies are hit hard.
Yeah, so this sort of disruption, again, affects critical infrastructure. So we'll probably see more about it in the news as we go on because nobody likes it when critical infrastructure gets hit, especially when it affects a bunch of secondary businesses that rely on these services. So this is fun. So we just had a friend who was amazing all the locals here with the ability to pay with their iPhone. And of course, like that's pretty cool, unless, of course, you unintentionally pay for something that you didn't want to buy.
Nice.
Like maybe spend like, I don't know, $1,000 on something that you didn't intend to buy just because somebody got physically close to you on the subway.
That sucks.
Yeah. So it turns out that you can force payments from locked iPhones under certain circumstances. And the reason for this is if you're getting on, let's say, like the Metro transit system or something, and you want to quickly swipe your phone in order to pay for something, having to like unlock it and do whatever, like, and hold up the line behind you was making people mad. So there's a feature you can enable that will make it so your phone is able to, even when it's locked, complete a payment. And this is very convenient for, express style situations, I think is what they called it. I think it was something to do with Express. But, express transit. So if you're, if you're on an express and you're about to get on your transit and you need to just, tap this, then it should just work. Well, that's great, except for the fact that now you don't need any sort of authentication in order to get this transaction to go through. So if you have a Proxmark emulator communicating with the iPhone, you can send it back to a card emulator, and then you can actually run this as a transaction. And the transaction, the researchers were able to find would work up to 1,000, I think they were using pounds. I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's a lot. Yeah, 1,000 Great British pounds. It's like, it's a lot. It's
that is
more
money.
Yeah. So obviously that would be a huge bummer to find out that you just lost 1,000 pounds all at once. It'd be devastating. So this is currently not fixed as far as I can tell. And as far as this has been updated. But I just really like these sorts of like convenience bugs where like it's designed to be really convenient, but then it ends up being so convenient the criminals are like, yes, this is extremely convenient. So in this case, be really careful with this feature, and I believe you can disable it. But if you have an iPhone and you use the payment system, you have a Visa credit card loaded into this because it's specifically with Visa, then you might want to disable that. But it seems like with MasterCard, there's a check performed that makes it so locked iPhones accept transactions only from card readers with a transit merchant code. So
does it work on Samsung as well, it says?
Trying the method of Samsung Pay, the reaches are always possible with the locked devices. However, the value is always 0. Oh, yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah, cool. So the value is always 0. So there's mitigations and like other types of payment systems, but you can just see that like these sorts of contactless payments systems are a huge target for hackers. So you will consistently see people going after them and trying to use them as a way of getting at your money because it makes it really convenient. Okay, we're not looking at that one again. Sorry, that scared me.
Instead you get this one, a text-based.
Hey, look at that. Even more Android malware. And guess what? It's stealing more financial data. So this is based off of, Ermac is the name of this one. I thought, so this is based off of a banking Trojan called Cerberus. And it's almost completely based off of this as well. So it's spread, how would you imagine this is spread based on everything else we've just gone over?
Probably through like a botnet or something like that.
Infected apps, just like the other ones. Yeah, so if you are downloading apps that are outside of the Play Store or haven't been scanned, then this is kind of what you are risking. This vibrating Android could start stealing your banking data. So if you want to see more about it, it's an interesting piece of malware. It's not it doesn't seem like super sophisticated because again, it is based almost entirely off of Cerberus, but it is working. So I'm not going to knock it. Just be aware that this is something that's going around and has been stealing financial data because that's what it's for, to try to get money. All right, so Bloody Stealer is something from a subculture I didn't fully appreciate or understand, but there's a lot of malware that is specifically targeted towards stealing people's gaming stuff. I am not super into video games, so I would not care if anybody stole like my StarCraft account. Like no one cares. In fact, someone is constantly trying to steal my StarCraft account because I get 2FA notifications all day, and I don't care. But it turns out that people have invested so much time and energy into this that there's actually some pretty notable anti-forensics going on. Protecting some of the malware that's going into this Bloody Stealer thing. So this is also like for some reason one of our friends just had their like account stolen from like a Russian gang basically, and then they were able to eventually get it back by going directly to the company. But there's a lot of different ways where this sort of thing can steal people's accounts, drain the value that they have, and use their digital assets for all sorts of nefarious stuff. I feel like at some point at the end of this, the punchline is like money laundering, but I'm not totally sure how that works. But
virtual money. video game money.
Yeah, but I feel like at the end of this, like North Korea buys a new tank or something. I don't know, but this is just an interesting way of moving money. And again, the malware here is actually fairly sophisticated. So as a way of stealing people's assets and moving around value, this is actually kind of interesting to me, just because of how widespread it is and how sophisticated some of the malware is. All right, so I think this is the last one we have time for today. This, again, is one that was submitted by Zam, so thank you very much for that. And this is Microsoft warning of something that's going after Active Directory file share servers. And what's notable here is this appears to be by some of the same people who were behind some pretty notable campaigns in the past. So this is a sophisticated piece of malware. It's something that is coming from a group. I believe it was Russian. Known for such hits as Sunburst, Sunspot, Raindrop, Teardrop, Goldmax, Gold Finder, Silbot, Flip Flop, Native Zone, Envy Scout, Boombox, and Vapor Rain.
These are really strange names.
Yeah, these all sound like a bunch of opener bands for like a punk festival. But okay, yeah. So this is something that was attributed originally to Cozy Bear, or the Russia's foreign intelligence services, who, if you're listening, are my favorite foreign intelligence service.
Nice.
So, no problems here, buddy. But anyway, this attack has been going after a bunch of file shares which could potentially have sensitive information in them. This is something to check out if obviously you have an Active Directory file share, as it is an ongoing attack, but it is relatively targeted. So it doesn't look like it is super widespread, but it is being actively exploited. Okay, so again, that's all I think we have time for this week. I want to thank everybody who asked great questions for our Q&A stream, including Potato Boy, who is our winner of a $100 Hack5 gift card. And if you want to win as well, you can submit a question for our Q&A stream either on the YouTube channel or on my Twitter, and you'll be automatically entered to win a Hack5 gift card. So we hope that you'll join us next time and potentially win, as well as ask us some great questions. Alex, thank you very much for being on the stream today.
Of course.
And we will see you all next time. Bye.